So what is a Mesh home Wi-Fi system, and is the MeshForce home Wi-Fi system really the best value? Let's get you tech equipped. Welcome to Tech Equipped, where we give you tips and tutorials and reviews on different products related to videography. And today is a little bit different because typically we talk about videography equipment and everything, but you can't edit the videos and post them on YouTube without Wi-Fi in your house. And so that's what we're here for today. So what I have in front of me is the MeshForce home Wi-Fi system. Just as full disclosure, MeshForce provided this M3 suite, that's what it's called, the M3 suite, which you can currently buy on Amazon at the time of the shooting of this video for $159. It comes with the MeshForce unit, the M3, that's the M3 unit, as well as two dots. They call these dots, M3 dots. And we'll explain more about those in a moment. We purchased this one M3 unit on Amazon for $79, and I'll put a link to that in the description below for a very specific purpose, and I'll explain that later in the video. Now, just to give you a little bit of size comparison of how large the M3 unit is and the dot is, this is a regular Dasani water bottle, not a sponsor, and you can see the size comparison with each of these. So I mean, all in all, they're relatively compact, very easily hidden in your house. So here's why these are called a Mesh home Wi-Fi system. If you have a dual band wireless router in your house, so you have a 2.4 gigahertz network and also a 5G network, then, like for example, if you have fiber optic network, then you actually have more than one internet network, Wi-Fi network in your house. These take those multiple networks and mesh them into one. That's why it's called a Mesh home Wi-Fi system, and it is in theory supposed to automatically assign to you, and there's only one Wi-Fi network name that you log into, and in theory it's supposed to automatically assign you to whatever network signal would be strongest at your particular location in your house. Now, here's why we ordered another M3 unit. Now, you can get a suite of M3 units alone. That's $179 instead of $159 for the two dots and one M3 unit. If you get the M3 suite with all M3 units, you can get 3 of them for $179 on Amazon at the time of the recording of this video as well. Here's the difference between this unit and this dot. So on the back of the M3 unit, you will notice there's a power input and then one WAN/LAN port and one LAN port. Now, this is where your current router is going to plug into this unit, but the significance of this one is this is a gigabit LAN port, and so the speeds coming out of this port will be 1000 megabits. Here's why we purchased the additional M3 unit. It's because of this gigabit port on the back. The M3 dot, you will notice it has a LAN port on the bottom. So if you wanted to hardwire this to a computer, you could. This is capped at 100 megabits Ethernet port, whereas this is a gigabit port, which is 1000 megabits. We wanted the ability, if possible in the future, if we wanted to hardwire a computer in our upstairs YouTube studio in our bonus room, we wanted to be able to have a gigabit port to future-proof our equipment. Currently, our current Wi-Fi network is 100 megabits. It's a fiber optic network. Now, effectually, that's 80 megabits, okay? With this, we have, what would that be called? Dectupled? I don't know. So with this, we have essentially increased our internet speed tenfold in this upstairs bonus room, so that now in the future, if gigabit internet ever does come to us, which it's our current provider just started offering it in other locations, so I'm sure it's on its way here, we're going to be ready in the future. We have now future-proofed this bonus room and for our live streams in the future to have the fastest internet possible. So to best understand the efficacy of the MeshForce system, we first have to understand our current Wi-Fi setup in our house. When our Wi-Fi wasn't, by the way, we have just a basic one-level home with a bonus room over the garage. And so when our Wi-Fi system was first installed, for some reason, unbeknownst to me, they put our initial Wi-Fi access point in that corner of the house. I wish it had been in a different location, but that's where they put it. So we decided, and by the way, that initial point has a 2.4 and a 5G network on it. So we decided, well, obviously we needed to get a wireless extender, Wi-Fi extender, that we could put somewhere near the center of the house to try to capture this other, well, essentially almost half the house. So we added another extension point right there in our kitchen, and it also runs a dual band network. Okay, so now obviously with this current setup, we essentially have 4 wireless networks active in our house right now. The 2.4, the 5G off of the original router, and the 2.4 and the 5G off the extension. Now, if by some chance we are connected to the 5G network here and we go back to this corner of the house, we will lose internet connectivity, especially on our cell phone, and it'll divert to our wireless network at that point if we don't switch our networks manually. One benefit of the MeshForce system, the Mesh Wi-Fi system, is it is supposed to automatically switch wireless access points for you seamlessly. And so we're going to test that. It combines like these 4 networks. The MeshForce system will also have 4 networks going. It'll have the 2.4 and the 5G going off of each access point. However, it merges all of those networks into one, and then it automatically attaches you to whatever network would give you the strongest Wi-Fi signal at the time. And so that's what we're going to test in this video. In order to understand how we tested the speed of the internet, all you got to do is just go to google.com and then type in internet speed test, and Google's speed test software will be the first thing that shows up. You'll also notice some other very popular options, but for the sake of this test, we were using Google's internet speed test option. Now, this particular test that you're seeing here was done in our bonus room on the 5G network through the MeshForce network. Now, one interesting thing about this test is you'll notice the download speed in the bonus room was 51 megabits, which is actually 10.3 megabits faster than the original test, which you'll see in the next slide. Okay, so let me explain what it is that you're seeing in front of you now. You will notice on the left-hand side of the screen, we ran 3 separate tests. The first test was before the mesh system was installed. The second test, we tried to compare as best we could, apples to apples. We had 2 wireless access points in our house prior to installing the mesh. So we tried to simulate that and only did 2 mesh units at first. The main M3 unit, where the original modem was, and then we put an M3 dot where the router was, the wireless extender was. And then after that, we did all 4 mesh units installed. And for each mesh unit, we did a laptop and a mobile device, in this case an iPad. And we did a test in 3 different locations. You'll notice the 3 different locations here. The original room in that front corner of the house that we showed you. The bonus room, which for the purposes of this whole experiment, that's the most important room. And we went out to the very corner of our backyard to see how, even if we were outside, how the Wi-Fi would do out there. And here's what we discovered from our experiment. Before we installed the mesh system in the original room with where the original Wi-Fi access point was installed, on a laptop, our download speeds were 80.5 megabits. Now, quite honestly, that's probably the best we could expect. We have a 100 megabits network. However, effectually that is, and they even told us when they installed it, it's really 80 megabits. And so that is like top notch for our house. That's the best it can do. Before we installed the mesh in our bonus room, we were getting 56.3 megabits on the laptop, and in the back corner of the yard, 10.7 megabits. So that's pretty good. That's very solid. When we did apples to apples and tried to compare it as best we could with just 2 mesh units, it actually decreased and went down to 73.4. Now, there can be some fluctuations in the download speeds, as evidenced by what you just saw. Just a second ago, you saw that in the bonus room it was 51 megabits, but as you can tell, when we original test, it was 40.7. So it can fluctuate a little bit. But when we got to this point, honestly, this number kind of surprised us. It would drop to 27.3. But let me clarify one thing though. That's still pretty fast. Most cable modems produce 25 megabits of speed. In our house, for a long time before we had access to fiber optic network, 25 megabits was the maximum, and we could stream, internet television apps or whatever we wanted to, and it was no problem. So that's still a really good speed. It wasn't as high as we were expecting, but it was still really good speed. And then in the back corner of the yard, it went down to 7.6. However, when we installed all 4 mesh units, well, it really cranked into high gear then. You notice in the original room, we're right back up to where it was, which, like I said, it fluctuates anyway, so I'm not real concerned about it. 73.4. You'll notice it is basically the same now with 4 mesh units. In the bonus room, we got 40.7. And as you just saw in the video we just did a second ago, we got 51 megabits. And so we're clicking up here in the bonus room on all cylinders as well. That's pretty good. And now that we had 4 wireless access points installed in the very back corner of our yard, we were now at 11.3 megabits. But here is where the rubber meets the road. This is the test that mattered the most to us, because remember, our goal was to get our bonus room to the point where we could live stream from our YouTube studio in our bonus room and make it every bit as effective as it was previously in the original room where the main router had originally been placed. So what we did, we took an Ethernet cable, and we same Ethernet cable. It's not like we're using a different category level Ethernet cable. It was a category 5 Ethernet cable. And in the original room where the original wireless access point was installed in our house, when we hardwired our laptop into that router, we got 84.2 download speeds. That is superb, and that is excellent. In the bonus room, we got 70.8 download speeds. Once again, that is superb. That is excellent. That for live streaming, that is more than adequate. And so we were very, very pleased with that. And you'll also notice that the upload speed went up a tiny little bit in the bonus room when we were hardwired. So whereas we were not confident at all with live streaming from our bonus room before the MeshForce system was installed, now that we have this system installed, we are very comfortable and very confident live streaming from our bonus room because of the speed it provides us. And actually, we got real-time experience with this last night. We had two Ethernet cables plugged into the M3 unit in our bonus room, and we recorded a live stream through StreamYard with some of the other agents in Ginger's travel agency, and you can actually see that video and see how well our MeshForce system did in that video on Ginger's YouTube channel right now, and we'll put a link to that video in the description below as well and up in the YouTube card right now. And as mentioned earlier, when we did the test with the 2 mesh units, we made sure that we tried to do it as similarly as the previous setup as possible. So we put the M3 unit that connected to the original router right there where the original router was, and we put the M3 dot exactly where the other Wi-Fi extender had been. So when we added in all 4 units, it actually gave the strongest signal to the bonus room when we moved the unit from the middle of the house to this area of the house to relay that signal. And then we put the last M3 dot up here in the back of the house here, which covers all this area of the house, and it gets the backyard. This is why we're now getting such good signal in the backyard, honestly, because that dot right there. Now you'll notice that with these 4 MeshForce units, each one of them is running a dual band network. So essentially there are 8 different Wi-Fi networks going on in our house right now. However, the beauty of the MeshForce system is it does combine all 8 of those networks into one network. So you only have to join one network one time, and anywhere you go in this house, it will automatically switch wireless access points to give you the strongest possible signal possible at that location. And I can attest, after a few days of having this now, we have not lost signal anywhere in our house, including outside. In order to add a mesh unit to the network, you just plug it in, and then you wait for that green dot, which shows that it's getting good signal. You wait for that green dot to start blinking, and when that happens, then you go to the app. You tap on the settings button in the bottom right corner of the screen, then you tap on add a mesh, and then next, and it just walks you through it step by step, giving you instructions. Once it's flashing, then you click on next, and then you scan the QR code on top of the mesh unit. It then takes it about 30 seconds to add the mesh unit to the mesh network. And then if by some chance you unplug that unit and plug it back in later, it will automatically reconnect to the network. And if that's the last mesh unit you're adding, you click complete, you go back to the home screen, and it shows you the unit that has been added. So my final thoughts on the MeshForce home Wi-Fi system is it does what we expected it to do, and that is a really high compliment. One of the things we expected to do was wherever we were in the house, we would not lose our Wi-Fi connection without having to manually switch networks, and it does that. It automatically switches networks for us. Just to give you one example, a couple weeks ago I was out mowing and I was listening to music while I was mowing, and I kept losing internet connectivity, so my music kept cutting off while I was outside in the yard. Well, a couple days ago I was out mowing after we installed the MeshForce, and I did not lose my music one single time, because no matter where I was in the yard, it kept moving me to the nearest wireless access point, and I kept having my music the whole time. And that's just a simple example, but it just shows that it really does always continue to switch you to the correct network at that time. Another great feature of the MeshForce home Wi-Fi system is the app. It is super easy to use, very user-friendly. I was very easily able to install the additional mesh units. You can also control parental controls on the app. You can set up a guest network. It is an excellent feature of the system. However, the single most important feature to us was the ability to live stream from our bonus room. And now we can do that confidently, that it's going to be a stable connection, it's going to be a fast connection, because we now have that M3 unit in our bonus room. And for that alone, the MeshForce home Wi-Fi system is a fantastic addition to our household. If I were to consider what the best value was in this system, if I had to pick between $159 for the M3 suite with the 2 dots on the 1 M3 unit, or $179 for 3 M3 units, it is no contest in my opinion. I would easily pay the extra $20 and get an M3 or get the 179 unit that has 3 M3 units instead of 1 M3 unit and 2 dots, because then you have 2 Ethernet ports on every location, including a gigabit port at every location, so that every location there's an M3 unit. So without a doubt, that is 100% the route I would go. If you look on Amazon and you look at the MeshForce home Wi-Fi system compared to other home Wi-Fi systems of comparable, features and that kind of thing, it easily beats all the rest of them in price. Particularly when you consider that if you get the 3M3 unit system, you have a gigabit port at each station. So I mean, it's really not a contest when you're looking at home Wi-Fi systems on Amazon. The MeshForce home Wi-Fi system is a tremendous value for what you're getting. So I hope this has been helpful to you. I hope you've been able to see maybe some real life experiences and real life internet speeds given by previously, before the home Wi-Fi system was installed, and after. I would strongly recommend it. It really does enhance the internet connectivity in your house, and it makes it seamless as far as automatically connecting you to whatever is the strongest Wi-Fi signal at that point in your house. You never have to worry about manually switching networks to your extension network or anything like that. It really is super convenient in that way. And so our tech question for today is, our Tech Equip community question for today is, are you currently using a home Wi-Fi system, a mesh network system in your house? If so, let us know in the comments and let us know your experiences with it. And we thank you all for watching this video. If it did help, please like this video and consider subscribing to our channel. And we look forward to seeing you very, very soon. Thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Also, be sure to click the button right there to subscribe and check out our next video right down there. And hey, check us out on youtube.com/gingermmt. My wife is a free travel agent. When you book her services are totally free to you. So be sure to check that out too. We look forward to seeing you soon.